deep beneath the sparkling, sun-kissed waves. Nestled in a kaleidoscope of color lay the most wonderful place in the entire ocean, the coral reef of sharing. Here, anemones swayed like gentle dancers, tiny fish darted like living jewels, and the seaweed gardens grew lush and green. It was a happy home for everyone, all because of one simple golden rule. Share everything you have. The sea sponges shared their filtered water. The clownfish shared their cozy anemone homes, and even the slow-moving starfish shared the best sunning spots on the rocks. It was a perfect harmonious paradise. Well, almost perfect. Lurking under a grumpy-looking gray rock was Coral the crab. Now, Coral was a very handsome crab. His shell was a brilliant, fiery red, and his claws were big and strong. But Coral had a heart that didn't quite match his splendid exterior. He had one rule, and one rule only. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is also mine. He scuttled and scrambled all over the reef, his big claws snatching up every tasty morsel he could find. A juicy sea grapey snip into his pouch. A delicious bit of algae floating by. Snip, it was his. He even took the prettiest, shiniest pebbles for himself, hoarding them in a giant selfish pile under his rock. The other reef creatures would watch him with sad eyes. Coral, sigh, Shelly the sea turtle, you've taken all the sea grapes.
Little Fin the fish hasn't had any today. Coral just clicked his claws together dismissively.
He should have been faster. He'd snap before disappearing under his rock to count his treasures. The reef once, so full of laughter and sharing, started to feel a little less bright. The other creatures began to hide their food, and the happy chatter was replaced by worried whispers. Coral had a mountain of food and shiny things, but he was the loneliest creature in the entire ocean. He sat on his pile, munching away, wondering why nobody ever came to visit him. The truth was, his greed had built a wall around him, a wall much bigger and sadder than his rock. One sunny afternoon, a new visitor drifted gently into the reef. It was JellyJiggle, a jellyfish unlike any other. He wasn't big or scary. He was a beautiful, translucent pink with long, graceful tentacles that shimmered with all the colors of the rainbow. He pulsed through the water with a gentle rhythm, like a happy, beating heart. JellyJiggle noticed the quietness of the reef. He saw the worried faces of the little fish and the sad sigh of Shelly the sea turtle. Then he saw Coral scuttling out from his rock to snatch a piece of floating coral that a small seahorse was about to play with. Instead of getting angry, JellyJiggle just floated closer, his rainbow tentacles swirling softly. "Hello there," he chimed, his voice like the tinkling of tiny bells. "My name is JellyJiggle. That's a very pretty piece of coral you have." Coral was startled. No one ever spoke to him so nicely. He held the coral tighter. "It's mine," he snapped, expecting JellyJiggle to go away. But JellyJiggle just smiled. A gentle, glowing smile. "It is very pretty," he repeated. "I bet little Sandy the seahorse would love to see it." Sparkle in the sunlight. Sharing its beauty would make the whole reef look even more wonderful. Don't you think? Coral was confused. Share. Why would he share? The point of having something pretty was to keep it for himself. But the way JellyJiggle spoke so calmly and kindly made him hesitate. He looked at the sad little seahorse and then back at the glowing, friendly jellyfish. For the first time, Coral felt a tiny crack in his greedy heart.
He didn't give the coral back. Not yet. But he scuttled back to his rock feeling
strange.
The next day, JellyJiggle decided to do something special. He gathered all the other creatures.
Let's make the most beautiful garden the ocean has ever seen, he announced. A garden for everyone to enjoy. Excitement buzzed through the reef. Shelley brought smooth, flat stones. The fish gathered colorful, fallen petals from sea flowers. The sea sponges arranged themselves into a beautiful, soft wall. They worked together, laughing and chatting, each one contributing a small piece to create something magnificent. The reef began to burst with color and life again, even more beautiful than before. From under his rock, Coral watched them.
He saw the joy on their faces.
He saw how a tiny shell from one fish and a green leaf from another created a beautiful pattern. He looked at his own pile of treasures. It was big, yes, but it was just a silent, lonely heap out in the reef. There was music and light and friendship. He felt a pang of loneliness so sharp it was like one of his own claws pinching him. He wanted to be part of that. He wanted to feel that happiness.
Slowly, hesitantly,
he pushed one of his shiniest pebbles out from under his rock. It was a beautiful mother-of-pearl stone that shimmered with pink and blue. JellyJiggle, who had been watching with a knowing smile, floated over. Oh, Coral, that is the most stunning pebble I have ever seen. It would look perfect right in the center of our garden, where everyone can see it shine. Coral's heart thumped. He looked at the pebble, his most prized possession. He then looked at the joyful community working together. Taking a deep breath, he gave the pebble a little nudge forward. Here, he mumbled. For the garden. A cheer went up from the other creature. It was a small cheer, but it was the kindest sound Coral had ever heard.
JellyJiggle gently used a tentacle to guide the pebble to the heart of the new garden.
The sunlight caught it, sending dazzling rainbows dancing all across the reef. It was more beautiful here, shared with everyone, than it had ever been hidden under his dark rock. Seeing the beauty his small act of sharing had created, Coral felt a warmth spread through him. It was a feeling much, much better than hoarding. Inspired, he pushed out another treasure, and another. Soon he was bringing out all his best shells and prettiest stones. He even brought out his stash of sea grapes. I have too many, he said, his voice quiet but clear. Please, everyone, have some. The little fish swarmed forward, nibbling happily. Shelley the sea turtle gave him a slow, grateful wink. Coral didn't feel like he was losing anything. Instead, he felt like he was gaining something far more precious. He was gaining friends. From that day on, Coral the crab was a changed creature. He still had his big, strong claws, but now he used them to help, not to take. He helped clear pots in the seaweed garden. He helped carry heavy stones. And he was always the first to share any delicious food he found. He learned that the joy of seeing a friend's happy face was worth more than a mountain of pebbles. The coral reef of sharing was truly perfect once again, and Coral, the once greedy crab, was no longer lonely. He was surrounded by friends, and his heart was as full and as bright as his brilliant red shell. And every so often he'd look over at JellyJiggle, the gentle jellyfish who had shown him that kindness, not greed, is the greatest treasure of all. Thank you so much for joining us for this wonderful story from the reef. Remember, sharing and being kind always makes the world a more beautiful place. If you enjoyed our adventure with JellyJiggle and Coral, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more fun stories. See you next time.